سبحان اللہ، بہت ہی خوبصورت ذکر آپ دونوں صاحباؤں نے، بہت ہی زبردست۔ الحمدللہ۔ آپ تمام کی خدمت میں ایک کلام۔ بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم۔ علی اللہ مدد فرما، الواحد القہار، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ حضر مشکل سفر مشکل، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ حضر مشکل سفر مشکل، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ ضعیف و زار و ناچارم، بسا اوقات بیمارم، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ ز خواب و خور چو حیوانم، ز حیوانی پشیمانم، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ نجات گریہ و زاری بہت مشکل ہے یاران، نجات گریہ و زاری بہت مشکل ہے یاران۔ کہو تم گریہ و زاری کے عالم میں، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ فریب نفس کافر میں بہت ہی سخت خطرہ ہے، مجھے اس سے بچا لینا، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ بہت سے امتحانات ہیں کہ جن سے ہم کو ڈرنا ہے، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ نہیں ہے گریہ و زاری، یہی ہے میری بیماری، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ یہ دل ہو مائل مولا، یہ جان ہو منزل مولا، یہی ہو محفل مولا، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ میں نادم ہوں گناہوں سے، مٹا مولا میری آہوں سے، دعا ہو خیر خواہوں سے، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما، علی اللہ مدد فرما۔ یا مولا مہربان، یا مشکل کشا، بہت ہی خوبصورت ذکر مولا آپ کے حضور میں پیش کیا گیا مولا۔ یا مولا تمام ساتھی جو جمع ہیں مولا، ان کے دل کی جو بھی امیدیں ہیں، جو بھی آرزویں ہیں مولا، تو ان کو تمام کو قبول فرمانا مولا۔ یا مولا کل اسماعیلی جماعت کی ہر مشکل کو آسان کرنا مولا، کل بیماری، بلا، آفت، دشمن، تکلیف، مشکل، ہر چیز کو تم مولا دور دفع کر کے آرام، خوشی اور شانتی اور امن میں رکھنا مولا۔ یا مولا مہربان، یا مولا مہربان، علمی محفل ہے مولا، या मौला इल्म में तरक्की चाहते हैं मौला, इल्म में तरक्की के साथ साथ मौला जिक्र, इबादत, गिरिया गुजारी भी चाहते हैं मौला। या मौला है उम्मीदें बेशुमार फिर भी देखो इंतजार। या मौला, या मौला तू गनी बादशाह और हम गरीब भिखारी हैं मौला, तुझसे ना मांगेंगे तो कहाँ जाएंगे मौला। या मौला मेहरबान, या मौला मेहरबान तो अपने नूर की मीठी नजर हम तमाम पर रखना मौला, और हमारी इन छोटी छोटी कोशिशों को मौला बहुत बड़ा बड़ा करके गिन लेना मौला। या मौला मेहरबान, या मौला मेहरबान तू रहमान, तू रहीम, तू दस्तगीर है मौला, तू मुश्किल कुशा है मौला, तमाम की हर मुश्किल को आसान करना मौला। या इमाम ज़मान, या मौलाना तक़ुवती व अंत सनदी व इत्तिकाली, या हाजिर, या मौजूद, या शाह करीम हुसैन, या इमाम हक़ मुबीन, लिल्लाहुम्मा लक सुजूदी व तवाती, शुक्रन लिल्लाह वल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, शुक्रन लिल्लाह वल्हम्दुलिल्लाह। Ya Ali Madad to our friends.
Mullah Ali Madad.
So we are going to start our study of Book of Healing, chapter Cure of False Fear. So who is going to read today?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Book of Healing, Quranic Healing, chapter Cure of False Fear, point 5, ebook page number 74. Generally, physical diseases are treated through two methods. One is called allopathy and the other homeopathy. The distinctive difference between the two is that in the former, a disease is treated by inducing an opposite condition, and in the latter, a disease is cured by producing symptoms similar to those of the disease. An easily understandable example of the former kind of treatment is that someone working in the sun drinks cold water again and again or takes a bath so that the heat is alleviated. In the latter case, the same person alleviates the heat by having something hot, such as hot tea, or wearing coarse clothes or walking, so that the heat of the sun may leave the body through sweating. Similarly, false fear is cured either by the remembrance of God or by his fear. The former is allopathy and the latter is homeopathy.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah. So this is a very beautiful point, very clear actually, that there are two types of treatment. Even in our physical world, we do know about allopathy and homeopathy. And when we discuss in context of cure for fear, the allopathy would be to stay in constant zikr and ibadat, whereas homeopathy would be to stay on the path of actually knowledge. Why? Allopathy is treatment with opposites, meaning when we do abundant zikr, we are not directly dealing with the fear, but what we are doing with the remembrance of Imam, we are replacing all the negative thoughts, all what makes us weak moments. With the name of Imam, it makes us stronger. Whereas when we talk about homeopathy, homeopathy is treatment with same. And if you have ever come across homeopathic treatment, you would realize that homeopathic treatment is very slow and it heals slowly, and you have to be very consistent step by step. It will heal you from inside out. Similarly, when we apply the homeopathic aspect of treatment in curing ourselves in treatment of the fear which humans may have of, people. That is through knowledge. And the way we said that to be able to understand what is the fear of Allah, what is it that we need to fear about Allah? That fear is actually related to knowledge. With knowledge, a Mu'min Salik will realize what is it to fear Imam. Similarly, when we are seeking treatment of false fear, when it is homeopathic approach, meaning that it has to be the example of the homeopathic treatment for cure of false fear is actually walking on the path of knowledge. Allopathy treatment in the physical world, the way it treats faster, but homeopathic treatment will take it longer, but it will completely cure the person. Both have its advantages. Now, in the worldly sense, one can talk about advantage and disadvantage, and that's all right. But to be able to understand these two concepts, we realize that when we do zikr ibadat, it is like treating yourself with opposite energy. False fear, zikr ibadat, we are treating that aspect of it. But when we are talking about homeopathic approach, meaning that by learning the knowledge, we are understanding the roots of the false fear and realize and learn and truly understand what is it to fear Imam. તો અહીંયા આપણે એક ચીજને સમજ્યું. એક કહેવાય છે કે ઇલાજ બિલ ઝિદ, અપોઝિટ થી ઇલાજ કરવાનો, અને એક કહેવાય છે ઇલાજ બિમિસલ, કે એવું ઇલાજ જે સેમ કાઇન્ડ હોય, એને કેમ કહેવાય ગુજરાતીમાં? જેવી રીતે આપણે હોમિયોપેથીની મિસાલ લઈએ છીએ કે હોમિયોપેથીની જે અપ્રોચ હોય છે કે આપણા બદનને સમજીને એ હોમિયોપેથિક ટ્રીટમેન્ટ એનો જે તરીકો હોય છે કે જે મિસાલ દેલી છે ચોપડીમાં કે કોઈ માણસને અગર ગરમી થતી હોય તો એ ગરમ ચાય પીએ કે ગરમ કપડાં પહેરે તો ગરમી છે ને ગરમીને મારે. પણ જ્યારે આપણે એલોપેથીની વાત કરીએ તો કોઈને ગરમી થાય તો એ ઠંડો શરબત પીએ કે ઠંડો પાણી પીવે તો એને અપોઝિટથી બિલઝિદ એની ગરમીનો ઇલાજ કરે. તો એવી રીતે આ સમજાવવામાં આવ્યું છે કે એમ કે આપણે ટ્રીટમેન્ટની હવે શીખામણ લઈ રહ્યા છીએ કે કેવી રીતે આ જે ખોફ છે, ખોફે બેજા, એનો ઇલાજ કેવી રીતે કરવાનો. તો જ્યારે આપણે વધારે ને વધારે zikr ઇબાદત કરતા હોઈએ છીએ તો એની મિસાલ જે છે એ ઇલાજ બિલઝિદ કે અપોઝિટ થી ઇલાજ કર્યું. પણ જ્યારે આપણે એમથી ખોફને સમજીએ છીએ અને ખોફને જળમૂળથી મારવા ચાહીએ છીએ અને ખુદાના ખોફને સમજવા માટે ચાહીએ છીએ તો એને કહેવાય ઇલાજ બેમિસલ. તો આ બે ચીજો છે કે અપ્રોચ છે કે કેવી રીતે ખોટા ખોફ, ખોફે બેજા, માણસોના ખોફને પોતાના અંદરથી કેવી રીતે ખતમ કરવાનો. જી.
Point number 6. If you want to know about fear from its roots and in depth, observe that among the three kingdoms of nature, minerals, vegetative, and animal. It is found only in the animal. Animals are of two kinds: the mute animal, which is living but cannot speak, such as beasts and birds, etc., and speaking animal, which is living and can speak, that is, human beings. It is necessary for the mute animal to have fear, for it is a means of its protection. When it comes to humans, it should be dissolved and transformed into human and angelic fear. For in the former there is no knowledge and wisdom, whereas in the latter there is knowledge and wisdom.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. So the way we were discussing in the above points that we want to understand the fear from its roots in depth. So interestingly, we are being taught that there are three kingdoms. And we have talked about these three kingdoms in the context of the soul. that there is mineral kingdom, mineral soul, vegetative soul, and animal soul. The word animal, actually in Urdu, if you were to know the word, it is haywan. The word hay, we all know. Hay means living. So living animals in reality are animal and humans as well. Jandar. In Urdu, again, it's called Jandar, those who are living, which includes animal as well as humans. But with, language, Haywan has been limited to only animals. But in reality, it is being called that there are two types of animals, right? One is mute, Haywan-e Samit, and Haywan-e Natik. Haywan-e Samit meaning mute animal. Haywan-e Natik meaning speaking animals, such as beasts and birds. And in speaking animal, human is also counted. Forgive me. Mute animal is beasts and birds, and speaking animal, Haywan and Natik, would be the example of human beings. So it is necessary for the mute animals to have fear. We all know, we all talk about that animals have instincts. And through that instincts of that fear, they have this ability to protect themselves. So for them, it is very much needed because of their protection. However, when we compare animals with humans, humans are speaking animal, Haywan and Natik. The fear as humans we have, if it is limited to instincts, protection, at a younger age, it is understandable. But when human grows up, rational soul is completed. For a moment, that fear, which is khaufe beja, false fear, has to go away, has to transform into farishtegana fear, fear of angels. Now, what does that mean, fear of angels? We all know that angels' job is always to pray and do ibadat. Zikr ibadat is their duty, remembrance is their duty. They do that, they fulfill this duty without any question, without any free will. Why? Because they know, they have the knowledge what is it to fear Imam. When that knowledge is there, definitely a human will transform himself or herself into becoming an angel. And that is the fear which is needed. By whom? Momine Salikin. Remember, we have to always remember that we have realized that there are categories. And those mominins who are walking on the path, they are momine Salikin. What they are trying to do by becoming momine Salikin? They are hoping to become like angels, as Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, has said in his Farman that you have two paths in front of you. One is of animals, another is of becoming an angel. And it is our choice. So those who are Mu'min and Salikin, they want to become like an angels. For them, their fear becomes dissolved. It transforms and it becomes the fear of angels, which is actually based on knowledge and wisdom. તો અહીંયા આપણે એ સમજી લઈએ કે જ્યારે આપણે ખોફના રૂટ્સના અંદર જાણીએ છીએ કે આ ખોફ શરૂ ક્યાંથી થયું, બુનિયાદ શું છે, તો આપણે સમજવું પડશે કે જેવી રીતે આપણે દુનિયાના અંદર જાનવરોને જોઈએ છીએ, જાનવર બી જીવત છે અને આપણે બી જીવત છીએ. જાનવર બોલી નથી શકતા, ઇન્સાન આપણે બોલી શકીએ છીએ. તો જ્યારે આપણે બોલી શકીએ છીએ તો એક જિંદગી છે, જીવન છે. અને જ્યાં જીવન છે વહાં ખોફ છે. જેવી રીતે જાનવરના અંદર ખોફ છે ને, એ લોકોને એની જરૂરત છે. કેમ? કે એ લોકો ખોફથી પોતાની જિંદગીને બચાવે છે. પણ જ્યારે ઇન્સાનના ખોફની વાત કરવામાં આવે છે તો આપણે સમજવું પડશે કે ઇન્સાનનું જે ખોફ છે ને, એ આટલું જ નથી હોતું કે પોતાને બચાવે. અગર એનું ખોફ આટલા જ દરજા ઉપર છે તો એનું મતલબ એ જ થયું કે એનામાં અને જાનવરમાં કોઈ ફરક નથી. કેમ કે ઇન્સાનના પાસે અક્કલ છે અને એને સમજવું પડશે કે પોતાની અક્કલથી પોતાને કેમ સુધારવાનું છે. અને જેવી રીતે આપણે જાણીએ છીએ કે ઇમામે આપણે શિખામણ આપેલી છે કે આપણે ફિરિશ્તા બનવાનું છે. એનું મતલબ એ થયું કે જ્યારે એક માણસ મોમિન હોય અને એ ઇલ્મ હાસિલ કરે છે તો ઇલ્મના દ્વારા એ પોતાને ફિરિશ્તા બનાવે છે. તો ફિરિશ્તા બનવાના પ્રોસેસમાં શું થાય છે કે એનું જે ખોફ હોય છે ને એ ખોફ ખતમ થતું જાય છે. એનું ખોફ જે છે એ એની જે શકલ છે એ બદલતી જાય છે અને એ ફિરિશ્તો બનીને એનો ખોફ જે હોય છે ફિરિશ્તગાના ખોફ હોય છે. એનું મતલબ શું કે એને ઇમામની સમજ, ઇમામની ઓળખ છે અને એના બાદ એ ઇમામથી ડરે છે, દુનિયાથી ને માણસોથી એ નથી ડરતો. તો એક ફિરિશ્તા જેવો માણસ જે મોમિને સાલિક છે એના ખોફની વજહ જે છે એ ઇલ્મ અને હિકમત ઉપર હોય છે. જી.
Point 7. Both animals and human beings experience fear, but man possesses the partial intellect, which the animal does not. Therefore, there is a great difference between their fears. Now, the more the intellect will develop through religious knowledge, the more the nature of fear will change, until the human fear will dissolve in the angelic fear, as the wise Quran alludes that people should fear God, but in the light of knowledge. For the real place of fear of God is at the height of the recognition of God, marifat. That is, fear of God is among the matters of spirituality and recognition of God. This concept, however, does not negate the subsidiary levels of fear of God, but it shows clearly that along with knowledge, step by step, the fear of God becomes more apparent and more elevated, as it is clear from the verse Quranic reference 35/28. And among the servants, it is the ulama who truly fear God. Unquote. It is known to the people of the Quran that there are many levels of knowledge. Quranic reference 12/76.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. So we touched upon this point already, that being humans have partial intellect, whereas animals only have instincts. But when we talk of human in comparison to angels, meaning it's a process of transformation, process of progressing, their fear is actually based on the knowledge and recognition. Without the recognition, without the marifat, one cannot understand what is it to fear God. And it all happens step by step. So how can we understand it? How can we make it very simple? To make it very simple, those friends and family members who do not have knowledge, who do not have this wisdom, who do not have this hikmah, it will be evident that the fear of people will be very high in their beings. Khaufe beja, they will be sick with this false fear. The more a Mu'min Salik seeks this knowledge, the fear of people will leave their heart, and their fear will be from Imam. Why? Because with knowledge they will understand what is it to fear Imam, what is it to fear Allah. Why would a Mu'min Salik would worry about having fear of God in their heart, having taqwa in their heart, versus anyone who fears people, meaning having false fear? And beautifully, 35/2 very clearly says that among the servants, it is ulma who truly fear God. Ulma, the word ulma is actually from ilm. The word ulma is actually from ilm. So those who are with knowledge and wisdom, they will have this fear in their heart. So let us quickly review these Quranic verses too. Who is going to read today in English?
I can read, Niamat Saiba.
Ji.
35/28. And among people and moving creatures and grazing livestock are various colors similarly. Only those fear Allah from among His servants who have knowledge. Indeed, Allah is exalted in might and forgiving.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So we did study this one yesterday. So this is the word alimu here. Ulama. Those who are ulama here. Those who are ulma. The word ulma is from ilm. So those who have knowledge, they will actually have the fear of Lord in their heart. So it is very interesting that fear is needed, but it is actually understood, realized with knowledge. And the second verse is 12/76, which actually talks about having knowledge in step by steps. So we'll skip that and let's go to the next point.
Point number 8. Animal fear, which is devoid of intellect, understanding, knowledge, and wisdom, is in human beings with their animal soul. It becomes false fear in them, for there is the possibility of the fear of God in them, which is in the form of knowledge and is of an angelic nature. That is, the fear which is in angels, Quranic reference 16/50, in the hearts of the prophets, Quranic reference 33/39, and the awliya, Quranic reference 10/62, and which the people of knowledge can recognize. It is this kind of fear which is called taqwa, and which is meant by the Quran. It is this medicine which removes the disease of false fear.
Subhanallah, subhanallah. So it is very clear actually. Why do animals fear? Because they don't have intellect, they don't have knowledge. And those humans, if they do not use their intellect to learn this knowledge and wisdom, similarly, what will be happening to their being? They will have very strong, powerful animal soul, carnal soul, because they are not working towards transformation of that carnal soul towards angelic soul, towards using the rational soul to overpower the animal soul and walk on the path of becoming an angel. So the result would be that their heart would be completely overpowered with false fear. And those who are desiring to have angelic nature, for them, their fear is only fear of God, which is based on knowledge and wisdom. And according to that, there is a reference 16/50. Very beautiful reference, Ji.
16/50. They fear their Lord above them, and they do what they are commanded. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. So they fear their Lord above them. How interesting it is that there is a realization in them that the Lord is always watching them. Mola is always watching. Our peers taught us that Mola jane chit ki chori. And Imam has given us commands as well. He has given us hukum as well. If we do not follow those farameen based on conviction, with understanding, with having the knowledge and wisdom, how are we going to realize that? So we may not have that fear which is needed, and the fear which we don't need, it is maybe overpowering our heart and soul. And जी उर्दू में पढ़ेंगे आप?
जी सूरह नंबर 16 आयत 50 बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम और अपने परवरदिगार से जो उनके ऊपर हैं डरते हैं और जो उनको इरशाद होता है उस पर अमल करते हैं.
Subhanallah. So in my Urdu translation I read और अपने रब से जो उनके ऊपर है कप कपाते रहते हैं और जो हुक्म मिल जाए उसकी तामील करते हैं. So there is a word kap kapana. We have to look at the words exactly to see where is this word kap kapana, and I'm sure there's another verse we will discuss about it, that there is more to fear which we understand, especially in context of this verse. And there is another verse that, you know, when Mu'min and Salih do the zikr with complete connection with Girya Uzari, they also experience types of shakes, kap kapana, zalzala ana badan, as if they are getting electric currents. Why would that happen to them? Because within their being, they feel that fear. Within their being, in their soul, there is that realization that they are away from Imam. And the soul, due to that pressure, that fear, has this shakes in the being, and it can be felt within oneself by Momin and Salih. And when we continue to go further, we will talk about it. I just wanted you to all have attention to that verse. And then the next verse is 33 by 39. Gee, let's read that.
33 by 39. Those who convey the messages of Allah and fear Him, and do not fear anyone but Allah, and sufficient is Allah as accountant.
Gee.
सूरह 33 आयत 39 बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम. और जो अल्लाह के पैगाम पहुंचाते और उससे डरते हैं और अल्लाह के सिवा किसी से नहीं डरते और अल्लाह ही हिसाब करने को काफी है.
So how clear it is that those who convey the message of Allah fear Him. They teach that we need to fear Him, our Lord, and do not fear anyone but Allah. This is the hukum, this is the command, this is the talim. Now tell me, anyone who is here, do we remember to fear Allah or we fear people? Whenever anyone has that experience of any kind of fear which is other than fear of Allah, immediately with knowledge we would realize that it is, number one, lack of knowledge, number two, spiritual disease. That means we need healing. And healing is what? We are learning about it. We are talking about the treatment of it. So we have realized that the teaching, the command is to fear the Lord and no one else. And the next verse is 10 by 62. Let's review this one as well. We did this yesterday as well, didn't we? That unquestionably, the allies of Allah, there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Unko na koi dukh hoga, na gam hoga. So what is the benefit when we fear Allah? There is freedom. Freedom from what? From any pain, any sorrow, any fear, any grief. Because now they have fear of Allah in their heart. So how freeing it is to have fear of Lord instead of having fear of people in our heart. Subhanallah, subhanallah. તો આને આપણે સમજી લઈએ કે શું સમજવાનું છે કે જ્યારે આપણા દિલના અંદર ખુદાનો ખૌફ હોય છે ને, એ ખૌફ રહેમત છે ખુદાની એકચ્યુઅલી. કેવી રીતે એ ખૌફ આવે છે? જ્યારે આપણા પાસે ઇલ્મ જ્ઞાન હોય, ઇલ્મ અને હિકમતની સમજ હોય તો આપણે ખબર પડે છે કે ખુદાનો હુકમ ઈચ્છે કે ખુદાથી ડરવાનું છે, કોઈ બીજાથી ડરવાનું નથી. અને જ્યારે કોઈ ખુદાના ઇલાવા કોઈ બીજાથી ડરે છે તો સમજી જવાનું કે ઇલ્મની કમી છે, ઝિક્ર ઇબાદતની કમી છે. તો આ ચીજ આપણને ઘણી હિંમત અને તાકાત ધરાવશે કે જ્યારે આપણે ખુદાથી ડરીએ છીએ તો ખુદા કહે છે કુરાનના અંદર કે મારા મોમિન જે મારાથી ડરે છે એ લોકોને કોઈ ગમ, કોઈ દુઃખ, કોઈ તકલીફની ફિકર જ ન હોવી જોઈએ, કેમ કે એ લોકો મારાથી ડરે છે. તો કોઈ ઇન્સાનની કોઈ મજાલ છે કે આપણા પર કોઈ કંટ્રોલ રાખે કે આપણી કોઈ ચીજ, આપણું કોઈ કામ ન કરે અને આપણે ડરાવે? થઈ નથી શકતું. કેમ કે આપણે ઇમામની દુઆ આશીષમાં છીએ. ઇમામથી જ ડરવાનું છે અને કોઈ બીજાથી નથી ડરવાનું, કેમ કે એમાં આઝાદી છે, એમાંની રહેમત છે. જી.
Point number 9. Where it is permissible to fear God, the fear of others is not permissible. If we fear others, then it implies that, God forbid, a calamity can befall us without his permission, izn. While this is contrary to Quranic teachings. See, for instance, the subject of permission of God, Iznullah, in this verse, quote, "No calamity befalls save by God's permission, and whosoever believes in God, he guides his heart." Quranic reference, Surah 64, Ayat 11. It is evident from this that to fear other than God is to associate someone with him, shirk. Thus, in order to receive the guidance of the heart, or inner guidance, and to observe the spirituality of the fear of God, it is necessary to progress in the levels of faith.
સુભાનઅલ્લાહ, સુભાનઅલ્લાહ. બહુ ક્લિયર પોઈન્ટ છે, બહુ જ ક્લિયર પોઈન્ટ છે કે ખુદાના ખૌફ ઇલાવા કોઈ બીજાનું ખૌફ આપણે ક્યારે પણ કરવાનું નહીં, ક્યારે પણ કરવાનું નહીં. અગર કોઈ માણસ ઉપર કોઈ તકલીફ આવે, કોઈ મુશ્કેલ પણ આવે, તો એને જે છે કુરાનની ટીચિંગના હિસાબે એને ખુદાથી જ ડરવાનું છે. કોઈ બી તકલીફ આવે, ખુદાનું જ ખૌફ દિલમાં રાખવાનું છે. કેમ કે ખુદા જે છે એ દિલના અંદર આપણને ગાઈડ કરે છે, આપણે સમજાવે છે, આપણે દોરવણી આપે છે. અને જે લોકો ખુદાથી ડરે છે, જે ડરવાનું જે એસન્સ છે, જે મકસદ છે કે એ લોકો ખુદાના સાથે કોઈ બીજાને સામેલ નથી કરતા. એની એક નનકડી આપણે એક સમજીએ કે જ્યારે માણસના માટે, એક મોમિન માણસના માટે હુકમ છે કે ખુદાને ડરે ને બીજાને ન ડરે, અને એ પછી બીજાથી ડરવા માંડે, તો ખબર છે ને શું થયું? કે આપણે એને બહુ મોટો બનાવી નાખ્યો. કોઈ ઇન્સાનની મજાલ નથી કે આપણે એનાથી ડરીએ, પણ આપણી કમજોરીની વજહથી આપણે કોઈથી ડરવા માંડીએ તો આપણે ખુદાનું ખૌફ મૂકીને કોઈ માણસનું ખૌફ આપણા દિલના અંદર બેસાડ્યું. તો આ નાદાનીની વાત છે, ઇલ્મની કમીની વાત છે. કેમ કે ખુદા તાલા રહેમાન રહીમ આપણા મૌલા જે છે આપણા દિલના અંદર આપણે દોરવણી આપે છે. અને જે લોકો રૂહાની તરક્કી, રૂહાનીતને જે લોકો ચાહે છે, એ લોકો ઈ ખૌફ, કેવો ખૌફ? ખુદાનો ખૌફ દિલમાં રાખે છે. અને એના માટે એ લોકો પોતાની ઈમાનની પ્રગતિ ચાહે છે. જ્યાં સુધી ઈમાનમાં તરક્કી નથી થતી, ત્યાં સુધી આ ચીજની સમજ, આ ચીજની અક્કલ આપણા અંદર નથી આવી શકતી. તેના માટે બહુ જરૂરી છે કે આપણે ઈમાનમાં વધારો કરીએ અને ખુદાના ખૌફને મોટું સમજીએ. So here it is so beautifully given that, it is not permissible. It is not permissible to fear anybody else but God. And even if there is a calamity befalls us without his permission, without his izn, if there is any difficulty which comes to the mu'min salih, do know that no calamity, no taklif, no difficulty can come without his permission. The way we have been talking about in context of different tests in our life, those tests are actually his rahmat in disguise, his mercy in disguise. So even if we have, say, a big difficulty, huge problem in our life, that problem cannot come to us if it was not permitted by our God. So when we understand that, it takes away so much burden from our heart, that it is his mercy, it is his rahmat, whatever he's doing. And when we have that knowledge, when we have that iman, number one, our hearts are in peace, and then we seek his mercy, his guidance, and he sends the guidance in our heart. Now, when we do not realize that we need to fear God and no one else, when we don't understand what is it to fear God, number one, the most important understanding is that when we associate someone else with him, and that is called shirk. Shirk in itself is a very detailed, very in-depth concept of shirk, to associate someone else with God. Now, I'm not even talking about shirk, but just taking this example that we are being asked to fear God. Instead of that, if someone starts fearing someone else, what did we do? What did we do? We remove God and we made somebody who's mortal, who's nothing, made him or her that much, giving them power. And that is simply not having knowledge, not having, using the intellect, complete ignorance, nothing else. Nadani and Nadani only. Therefore, for Mu'min Salikin, it is important for us that to realize that his guidance comes in our heart. It is inner guidance. And what we do need to do is to be able to observe that how in our spirituality we need to realize that his fear is the most important fear, and that understanding comes with knowledge, and with knowledge the levels of faith increases. So it is very interconnected. The fear of Khuda is very interconnected with knowledge actually. In order for those who do want to fight this fear of false fear, they need taqwa, because taqwa is the treatment of the fear. What is taqwa? To have fear of Allah. How would we learn about fear of Allah? Through knowledge. So do we see how it is interconnected? And we have to remember that when we forget this principle, it is a qanun. If someone does not have taqwa, they cannot have fear of Allah. So, in order for us to be close to the Nur of Imam, we have to realize that even any difficulty befalls on us, it is due to his izan, due to his mercy. So, this verse is mentioned. So, let's read this. Ji.
Point number 10.
No, shall I read this Quranic verse, translation 64 by 11?
64 by 11. Mafi, I just lost it. If you give me 1 second.
मैं
Okay.
पढ़ूं?
Ji.
सूरह 64 आयत 11 बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। कोई मुसीबत नाजिल नहीं होती मगर अल्लाह के हुक्म से, और जो शख्स अल्लाह पर ईमान लाता है वो उसके दिल को हिदायत देता है, और अल्लाह हर चीज से बाखबर है।
સુબહાનઅલ્લાહ. So કેટલી ક્લિયરલી બતાવવામાં આવ્યું કે કોઈ મુસીબત કોઈ માણસ ઉપર આવી જ નથી શકતી અગર ખુદાની મરજી ના હોય. જે લોકો ઈમાન લાવ્યા છે એ લોકોના દિલને ખુદા પોતે હિદાયત આપે છે અને એ બધું જાણે છે, એ બધું જાણે છે. જી શાલા.
G 64 by 11. No disaster strikes except by permission of Allah, and whoever believes in Allah, he will guide his heart, and Allah is knowing of all things. Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. Ji. So let's read the next point.
Point number 10. There is no doubt that there are many levels of fear of God, and on the highest level, that is the place of spirituality, astonishing miracles of the fear of God appear. These miracles are briefly mentioned in the Holy Quran, such as cellular quakes, Quranic reference 2 by 214, awakening of half-dead or dormant cells, Quranic reference 39 by 23, remembering God with the body, cells along with the heart, Quranic reference 39 by 23, word of taqwa, kalimayi taqwa, and the function of Israel, amali Israeli, Quranic reference 48 by 26, 3 by 143, vision of the spirit of the Quran, Quranic reference 59 by 21. That is, fearing God by beholding the spirit and spirituality of the Quran, the hearts reaching the throats due to the onslaught of the spiritual army, Quranic reference 33/10. This is also the miracle of the spiritual death. Fearing of the heart according to the standard of spirituality. Quranic reference 8/2, etc. All these are miracles of the fear of God.
Subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. So there are very many references. And keywords are actually mentioned. So let's talk about it. Number one is this cellular quacks, which I was mentioning earlier. And the word in Urdu, if you were to look at it, or Arabic, it will be zalzala. A mu'min is salik when they are walking on the path of knowledge. With knowledge, when they do zikr ibadat, they do experience this spiritual miracle in their being. That sometimes during ibadat time, during zikr time, or even in ilmi classes, they start shaking. They feel vibration in their beings, as if sometimes, they are shaking inside, nobody can see it, and sometimes visibly others can see that they are shaking. And it is truly due to the knowledge they are listening, due to the zikr they are doing, their inner being, due to the fear of God, they start shaking. They start shaking. They experience these shakes. Now, of course, those who are ignorant, those who do not have knowledge, those who do not understand, they may think, oh, somebody is probably feeling cold. That's why they are shaking, or anything else, right? But in reality, this is a spiritual experience. And it is mentioned in Quran that they would experience these shakes in their being. And it is a rahmat. And it is an indication. It is an indication. It is an acknowledgement. It is a validation for that moment when they experience these quakes, that all the particles of the souls within their being, they are moving, they are shaking, because they are listening to the words of knowledge, they are listening to that zikr, and they are realizing that this is who they belong to. Through that knowledge words, through that zikr, they are able to connect to the nur of the Iman. And due to that, there is experience of those shakes. So that is one, 2/214. Awakening of half dead or dormant cells. Ruhe Munjamid. We have talked about frozen souls or dormant cells, right? These are again sleeping. Remember, in every cell, there is a particle of the soul, but they are sleeping. Whenever they hear true knowledge, full of ta'wil, zikr, done with connection of heart and soul, melting the heart, the cells wake up. Truly, they shake and wake up, as if they've been sleeping for years and they wake up. That is again another spiritual experience which happens. But why does it happen? It happens due to that particle realizes the fear of God. And that is why we have understood that fear of God can only be understood and learned through knowledge and zikr ibadat. And then there is an example of remembering God with the body, cells, along with the Israeli, Amle Israeli. Now we've talked about the function of Israel, who seizes the soul. What happens for a Mu'min Salik? This is at a very progressive stage when a Mu'min Salik is going through the, let's take the highest example, Mutu Kabla Anta Mutu. Again, the experience of dying also happens in steps by step, okay, stages by stages. The way it talked about here, the heart reaching the throats due to onslaught of spiritual army. If someone, when we are eating and we experience this choking, we can't breathe, we can't breathe. Now take that experience, physical experience, if you have had in your life. Imagine somebody listening to knowledge classes or they're doing zikr and they feel as if they can't breathe. They're not eating any food. They were just doing zikr ibadat, learning knowledge. Why would they have experienced as if they're choking, they can't breathe? What happens that there is this spiritual army which gets attracted. When there is a pressure of that spiritual army, that mu'min and salik will feel in their being, they can't speak, they can't talk, they can't breathe sometimes because there's experience of as if they are choking. All that these experiences are actually related to fear of God. And all these are different experiences depending on the level where Mu'min and Salik is, they can have this experience in their being. And sometimes we get so mesmerized and ask questions. रूहानियत में आगे तरक्की होती है तो क्या होता है? This is right in front of you with Quranic references. Anyone who is interested that what happens in Ruhaniyat, these are the experiences written with the references of Quran. Each one is dependent on having a mu'min salik taqwa. Without taqwa, which is fear of God, how do you develop? How do you realize? How do you learn about fear of God? Through knowledge, through zikr ibadat. So the word of taqwa, kalima taqwa. Now we can say, when we talk about the word, we can talk about ism azam as well. When we do zikr, zikr includes ism azam, zikr includes all other zikr we do, because each zikr has its own angel. So when we are truly desiring of all this knowledge, of taqwa, of having fear in our heart, all these experiences are for Mu'min and Salik to experience it. The way it says, fearing of the heart according to the standard of spirituality. All these are miracles of the fear of God. તો અહીંયા આપણે આને પેરેગ્રાફ ઉપર ખતમ કરશું કે કોઈ બી મોમિનને ખુદાનો ખૌફ હોય, એ જ મોમિન જે છે ને રૂહાનિયતના તજરબા કરી શકે છે. અને અહીંયા બધાએ રૂહાનિયતના તજરબાની વાત કરવામાં આવી છે અલગ અલગ કુરાનના રેફરન્સીસના સાથે, કે જેને પણ રૂહાની તરક્કી જોવી હોય, જેને ઇલ્મથી રૂહાની તરક્કીને સમજવું હોય, આ પેરેગ્રાફ બહુ ખુલ્લા રીતે લખવામાં આવ્યું છે કુરાનના રેફરન્સીસના સાથે. બધાના માટે આ ખુલ્લું ઇન્વિટેશન છે કે આપણે વાંચીએ અને સમજીએ કે કેવી રીતે ખુદાના ખૌફનો એક્સપિરિયન્સ ઇલ્મ અને ઝિક્ર ઇબાદતની મહેફિલમાં, ઇસ્મે આઝમની બેતુલ ખ્યાલની ઇબાદતમાં એક મોમિન સાલિક કરી શકે છે. અને આપણે કપકપાહટ, ઝલઝલાની વાત કરીએ કે બદન હલતું હોય, શેક થતા હોય, કે ચોકિંગનો એક્સપિરિયન્સ થતું હોય, આ બધા જે છે આ એકચ્યુઅલી માજિઝાત છે જે મોમિન સાલિક પોતાના અંગના અંદર એક્સપિરિયન્સ કરે છે જ્યારે એ રૂહાની તરક્કીમાં આગળ વધે છે. તો અહીંયા આપણે રોકીએ. ઇન્શાલ્લાહ આપણે બીજા જે પેરેગ્રાફ છે એ નેક્સ્ટ વીક કમ્પ્લીટ કરશું. જી.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. It is so beautiful that there are so many things with knowledge, they are answered to you. And it's very clear, but at times it needs a teacher to explain and show. There are so many things explained in the book, but when we talk about it in the classes, I think it gives a broader understanding. That's how I felt when we talked about these experiences. I wanted to ask one question while friends are thinking about questions or comments. It is so beautiful that it is mentioned here that I want to say it is glad to hear that without Allah's permission, without Allah's izn, there is no calamities which befalls on us. But as we're sinful. I'm sinful. So if I were to take it for my own self, what if we take examples of problems which we cause to ourselves? Like, let's say if I'm eating too much sweets, I will have those let's say diabetes, as a general physical example. How would you differentiate it that what calamities are befalling on a moment, with izn of Allah, and what calamities are, are of our own doing.
Subhanallah, very good question, and I understand what you're expressing. Shukr Mola. There's a farman by Imam Sultan Muhammad Shah. Mola has given us all the answers in his farman, right? That he says that majority of the physical diseases you experience are actually due to your not taking care of yourself. बेएहतियाती से होती है, Mola says, right? कि તમે પોતાની સંભાળ નથી કરતા. But the question, the context you're asking, we have to realize that even let's say someone liked too much sugar, they did not take care of their diet, and they ended up in diabetes. It happened. What matters that how do you deal with it? If that diabetes becomes the center of that person's life, nothing matters but that disease matters, and every time there is complaining, whining about that only, or worrying, and all stressors are just related to that disease, versus a person, probably he or she also got because they were not taking care of their diet and they ended up with this disease. But their approach is that it is okay, it is there, and they take care of themselves, but they stay in remembrance. They stay in peace. They do not lose their peace, their calmness, because the disease has befallen on them. So what I'm saying, that despite that both people got the disease because of their own not taking care of themselves, but one chooses to stay with remembrance in gratitude and takes care of himself or herself. That is immediately very smart or intellectual decision of that Mu'min as-Salik to convert that disease and worries or stressors into remembrance of Mawla. Meaning that disease now is actually rahmat for him or her. Why? Because due to that, whatever difficulty, they felt, worries they felt, they submitted their worries to Imam. They did Girya Uzari, they did more zikr. Now they're seeking more. What they're seeking? Physical health and taking care of, ability to take care of themselves. But due to that, their zikr increased. Their seeking to Imam increased. Meaning it is a rahmat of Mawla. So do you follow how it changes? So at times, when we are young, when we are younger and we are beginning this knowledge journey, and if someone were to ask that how do I differentiate between what I have done or what God has sent, the easiest answer is that if you do not forget the remembrance of Imam, then that test, that disease, that difficulty, that calamity has come from Imam. But at this level, where we've been seeking knowledge, we've been walking on the path, it is actually very easy to say that yes, let's say one made a mistake. But even after making a mistake, that mistake does not need to remain a mistake. That mistake has to become an opportunity. And a Mu'min as-Salik can do that. And that's how life goes on. You make a mistake, you stand up, you walk, continue to walk. That mistake should not limit you. Now, do we see people like that they have a physical or mental health or whatever the problem they have? They only will talk about that because their life revolves around that. It does not revolve around zikr. It does not revolve around Imam. It revolves around the mortal body. And why does that happen? Because there is no knowledge. So I hope that helps.
Gee, I think you said it so beautifully. It made sense as you are saying, with knowledge there is acceptance and there is required patience. Patience with an understanding and improving rather than dwelling over those things which are happening. So gee, it beautifully made sense. Shukr alhamdulillah, shukr alhamdulillah. Karima Sahaba is asking, can you please go over Surah 48, verse 26 again? I don't quite understand how this verse is related to Israel or where the description of choking is in the verse.
It said 40. So what I was hoping, Karima, because it was time limited, so in the next class, what would I have done? We would have discussed all the verses because there are so many verses, right? And I do know that there are friends who would love to understand Quranic verses. So if you allow me, we will have all these verses and then we'll start from this paragraph. How about that?
I mean,
All right.
and then one of the other friend is asking Salima Saiba, while zikr, I think she's saying singing is same like shaking,
Singing.
swinging.
Swing.
Maybe Salima Saiba, if you want to come forward and ask, while zikr,
Yeah,
swing,
swing like it's like you're moving,
yeah,
right? With the rag, with the rhythm, you're moving. That's not, that is not shaking. No, that is not zalzala. It is uncontrollable. It happens without you doing it. That is, so shakes are different. Shakes are different. If you will see it, you will know it, because if you know it, you will see it and you will realize it. But somebody moves, they're moving with the, the rhythm of the rag. That's different from shaking.
yeah, she clarified jumna, जैसे हम जिक्र में झूमते हैं.
Yeah, Jumna is different from Kapkapana, if you understand Urdu, right? Jumna, Kapkapana, two different words. Ji,
Subhanallah. Got it.
Naveem,
Okay.
sorry,
Ji,
Naveen, may I make a comment?
ji.
Niamat Saiba, and just building on the beautiful question Naveen Saiba asked and your response, not only like is it so comforting and gives so much solace and a reminder when we read the verse about no calamity will befall you without his will. My bad paraphrase, Mafi. But it also, brings so much like a sense of humility in the sense that we get reminded again, we forgetful creatures, me, such a forgetful creature, that of where we stand in respect to him and to all creation. It puts us in our relationship very, very clear. And it reminds me of Maulana Sultan Muhammad Shah's interview that, um, may our souls be sacrificed to this Imam, his interview that he gave in the Daily Sketch, and it's sometimes paraphrased as my philosophy of wisdom, but with your permission, may I just read what he has to say that reminds me of this?
Yes, definitely.
He's the interviewer is talking to him about what a man needs to be happy, and then Maulana Sultan Ahmad Shah says, quote, "First, I would place spiritual happiness. A man must be at one with God. This may sound old-fashioned to some people. A few may think that they do not believe in God, and some others that it matters little to the individual in his daily life how he stands with regard to him." Now, here's the point I wanted to refer to. Back again to his response. Ruling out the atheist, with whom a believer can no more argue than he can discuss color with a blind man, it is surely strange that a believer in an omnipotent and ever-present deity should fail to realize that how we stand this instant and every instant toward him matters to us more than anything else in the universe. That is the fundamental question. Are you in harmony with God? If you are happy. Unquote.
Subhanallah, ya
So it's
Subhanallah.
that part about, the taqwa, right? Really, really explaining to us, to all of humanity, actually, what God consciousness is and what, which relationship really matters
True.
and who we
Subhanallah.
are.
So beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Shara. That was so beautiful. It's like conclusive paragraph for what we've been discussing. Subhanallah.
I
subhanallah,
also
truly,
wanted
truly, subhanallah.
I'm so
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I just also wanted to say that there's no way I would have been able to understand this chapter without your explanation, Niamat
Shukran.
Saiba. The detailed explanation of what each of those verses meant. Can't wait to do all the verses. Like Karima, I'm like ready to go dive into those verses for point number 10. But we will wait with patience till next week. But it is so beautiful to go through those verses with
Yes.
your explanation. Subhanallah, subhanallah. Thank you.
Shukran Mola. I didn't expect to go to the point 10. If you see, do you see that? So I'm like, that is too many verses, so we have to do it separately from today's class. But Alhamdulillah, it's good to review. At least now we know what that paragraph is all about, and then we can discuss next time. We'll start with the Quranic verses, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah, we can re-listen to the sessions, we can re-listen to the audio of the chapter, and inshallah, we can read the references and ponder upon it, because it is very important that all of this is applied, and that's the most important part you have always emphasized. And I wanted to share, I think you said a few days ago, probably you said that, problems don't disappear or anything, but the perspective of the problem changes once we understand it with the knowledge. So problem stays just as they are, but the perspective, the importance of those problems changes in our mind, and it gives a secondary preference to those. Then primary focus becomes taqwa and zikr and remembrance and ilm. So, subhanallah, subhanallah, beautiful, beautiful session. Thank you so much, Niamat Saiba, for explaining this very, very important concept to all of us. And humble prayers, humble shukrana in Mawla's huzur for you to be able to do that for us. Thank you so much, Niamat Saiba. Thank you so much, friends. Ya Ali Madad, Ya Ali Madad.
Ya Ali Madad, thank you for your kindness and good words. Ya Ali Madad, Ya Ali Madad.
يعلي مدد
Ya Ali Madad, Ya Ali Madad.
يعلي مدد
يا لمدة ما
Ya Ali Madad, Ma, Ya Ali Madad.